have to give it some rest. It's possible he will miss some practice time this week, but they are optimistic that he will be able to play in the game this weekend. In Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback there, left late in the game with a knee injury. Not the same knee that he hurt in Minnesota. Very important for people to understand that. And our Chris Mortensen reporting yesterday that there was no structural damage to the knee. Teddy Bridgewater, they need to let the swelling calm down, and he might be able to practice and play this week. We will find out more tomorrow when they return to practice, see how much, if anything, he's able to do. And then the big news yesterday, Drew Brees, our Ed Werder reporting, cracked ribs, a collapsed lung. He is going to be out a while. How long? You know, it's murky, but I was told yesterday 2 or 3 weeks is the absolute most optimistic possible timeline, and that is probably very optimistic. He's hopeful to be back in time for the playoffs.
There were a lot of interesting pieces of that story, including the fact that part of this injury may have come the week before. Either way, Brees posted this on Instagram last night. He wrote, "Who Dat Nation, I've got the best medical team in the world. We'll be back in no time." Here's his coach, Sean Payton, on the Saints' backup quarterbacks, Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill.
I have a good feel of what we're trying to do. They pick things up, and, I feel like it's a good room.
Sean, I remember last year when Drew was injured in Seattle, you didn't name a starting quarterback until late into the week.
That'll be the case this week, too.
All right, so let's be simple. He's sort of leaving it open, and we've heard there's been so much Taysom Hill talk over the course of time. Marcus, I'm asking you directly. Brees is going to be out a few weeks. Who's the starting quarterback going to be?
It's going to be Jameis Winston, G. That's what it boils down to. Yeah. Look, for as much as we want to make Taysom Hill the next man up in New Orleans, that's not the reality. The reality is last year we had this exact situation, and we saw what happened. And Jameis Winston being over with Sean Payton, obviously you wanted to see that influence and see if he could get the best out of Jameis Winston, especially as far as taking care of the football. And I'm sure Sean Payton has seen some things in practice that's eye-popping from Jameis Winston, because we did. Even in a 30-interception year, he threw 30 touchdowns as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jameis Winston be the starter, mixed in with what Taysom Hill was doing when Drew Brees was the quarterback, maybe a little bit more than you're normally seeing. But the bottom line is this. Sean Payton can say what he wants to, but when it was time to put it on the board, he went with Teddy Bridgewater over Taysom Hill, and he's going to go with Jameis Winston over Taysom Hill this time.
Well, that's 100% right. And, Jeff, last year with Teddy Bridgewater, they went 5-0 in Brees' absence. Can they do that this year with Jameis Winston as their quarterback?
Absolutely. And Swagoo said it best, man. All this talk about Taysom Hill, like he said, he may get a little more sprinkle. Jameis Winston is the quarterback, man. The dude threw for 30 touchdowns. Like, his upside is absolutely enormous. And guess what? The one thing we know about Sean Payton is he believes in Sean Payton calling plays. He knows how to design offensive game plans. He believes in their defense. He knows him, man, right? So he's going to tell Jameis Winston, don't screw it up. You got Kamara, you got Thomas, you got Sanders. You know, we got tight ends. We have everything when you got a good defense. We're going to win games as long as you carry your part, right? Do your job. That's all I'm asking. And listen, I understand some of the interceptions from last year, but don't forget it's a completely opposite mentality in New Orleans than in Tampa Bay with BA, right? He doesn't have to have all the big shots. All he has to do is get the ball to their playmakers and allow them to do their job. I think Jameis Winston resurrects his career and does a great job under Sean Payton because he'll teach him the discipline of that position.
I'd love to see it because, Marcus, if you just look at them historically, no two quarterbacks are more different than Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston. Teddy Bridgewater never turns the football over. He averages about 4 yards a pass, between 4 and 5.
That's right.
Jameis Winston averages like 10. Now, it does come from the offense that he came from. But, Marcus, which is going to give? I mean, is the offense going to look a little more like Jameis or a little more like New Orleans?
It'll look like New Orleans. It'll look like Sean Payton's offense. It'll look like Jameis Winston has learned under the tutelage of Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Like, we have to identify two things in this situation. One, Jameis is the backup, or you wouldn't bring him in. And the second thing is this, G. We lauded about Jameis going to Sean Payton. I talked about Jameis being on the sideline, being able to watch football. And I think to what Jeff is saying and what I'm saying,
that's right.
This is going to pay dividends for Jameis Winston because he's actually going to learn how to play quarterback and check the football down.
Yeah, let me talk to Graziano here for a second about that. How closely do you think the league is watching? This is the opportunity Winston needs. A reminder,
Oh, yeah.
It feels like I need to remind people, he was the first pick in the draft, and not 20 years ago. So this really could be an interesting audition. Teddy Bridgewater used it to become a starting quarterback. This is a good opportunity for James.
Huge opportunity. Couple notes of caution. Number one, this is Jameis Winston's first year in the system in New Orleans, and they didn't have a real offseason.